Before you say a single word, people have already decided what they think of you, not based on your resume, not based on your reputation, not based on everything you carefully prepared. They decide based on the signals your body sends, the way you walk into a room, the way you hold your shoulders, the way your eyes move when someone speaks to you. Human beings begin forming impressions of others almost instantly, before conscious thought, before language, before judgment. Your brain is constantly analyzing tiny signals, posture, movement, facial expressions, and behavior. And here is what makes this fascinating. That first assessment can influence everything that follows. How much people trust you, how much authority they give you, whether they feel comfortable around you, or whether they distance themselves. Most people never realize this is happening. They spend their entire lives controlling their words while ignoring the silent conversation their body is having. Every movement, every expression, every reaction. Your body is communicating all the time. This video is about that hidden conversation, the signals beneath the words, the unconscious messages every human being sends every second of every day. By the time this video ends, you will understand the language your body has been speaking your entire life, and you will never enter a room the same way again. Before we decode specific signals, you need to understand the architecture underneath them. In 1967, psychologist Albert Mehrabian published research that changed the way people thought about human communication. His work became widely known for one important idea. When people communicate feelings or attitudes, the words themselves may carry only a small part of the emotional message. Tone of voice carries more, and body language can carry even more. Think about what that means. When you are trying to understand what someone truly feels, you cannot focus only on the words they choose. You have to watch the body, because the body is often communicating at the same time, and sometimes it is telling a completely different story. Here is why. The human brain has different systems involved in communication. The neocortex is the rational, deliberate part of the brain. It helps choose words, construct sentences, plan responses, and manage the carefully controlled version of ourselves that we present to the world. But deeper inside the brain is the limbic system. Older, faster, more emotional, more instinctive. It does not carefully prepare a performance. It reacts, and every reaction can appear somewhere in the body. A moment of discomfort, a sudden rise in anxiety, a feeling of attraction, fear, confidence, dominance. The body can reveal these reactions before the conscious mind has fully understood what is happening. That is why trained behavioral experts do not listen only to words. They watch posture, hands, feet, eyes, breathing, movement, and most importantly, timing. Because words can be carefully chosen. Physical reactions are often much harder to control. But there is one foundational principle you must understand before going any further. Never read body language from a single gesture. Always read signals in clusters. One signal alone can mean almost nothing. Crossed arms might mean someone is defensive, or cold, or thinking, or simply comfortable. But crossed arms combined with feet pointing toward the exit, minimal eye contact, and a slight backward lean. Now the signals begin to form a pattern. One gesture creates a possibility. Several signals pointing in the same direction create meaning. So remember this rule. Do not judge one movement. Look for multiple signals confirming the same emotional state. That is when the body's hidden conversation becomes much easier to understand. Now, let's begin reading it. Walk into any room, and within seconds, you can often identify who holds the most power. Before introductions, before conversation, before anyone explains who they are. The body has already started revealing the hierarchy. The first signal is space. High-status individuals tend to take up more of it. Naturally, unconsciously, they spread materials across a table, lean back in their chairs, use armrests fully, extend their arms outward, and place personal objects around them as subtle territorial markers. Their body is broadcasting a simple message. I belong here, and I am comfortable occupying this space. People who feel lower in status often do the opposite. They compress, shoulders move slightly forward, elbows stay close to the body. Movements become smaller. Careful, contained, the body makes itself less noticeable, not necessarily because the person consciously chooses to appear weak, but because the nervous system is reading the environment as a place where it feels safer to minimize presence. And here is the uncomfortable reality. Other people notice these signals, usually without realizing it. The person who expands is often treated as someone with authority. The person who compresses is more easily overlooked, before either person has spoken. The second signal is posture, especially the spine. Confident individuals often keep the spine more vertical. The head sits naturally over the shoulders. The chin remains level with the floor. The chest stays open without becoming exaggerated. This posture does more than change appearance. The body and mind constantly influence one another. When your posture becomes more open, stable, and controlled, your internal state can begin to change with it. The third signal is head position. A head held straight, with the chin level and the eyes forward, usually communicates confidence and engagement. A gentle head tilt communicates something different. Openness, interest, safety. When someone tilts their head while listening to you, they expose a vulnerable area of the neck. That often happens when the nervous system does not perceive danger. A slightly lowered chin, especially when the eyes look upward, can communicate caution. Uncertainty, wariness. The body is subtly protecting the throat, but a raised chin, especially when someone looks downward at another person, can communicate superiority. Distance, or contempt. Watch the chin. It often reveals how someone sees their position relative to the people around them. The fourth signal is one of the most overlooked. The handshake. Most people think a handshake is simply a greeting, but in a few seconds, it can communicate a surprising amount about the relationship between two people. A person who rotates the hand downward may be trying to place their hand above the other person's, a subtle dominance signal. A person whose palm turns upward may appear more yielding. But when both hands meet vertically, with equal pressure, the interaction communicates equality. Most people shake hands automatically. They never notice what their own hand is doing. So the next time someone extends their hand, pay attention. Notice the direction of the palm. Notice the pressure. Notice the posture of both people. Because the handshake may last only a few seconds. But the silent conversation begins before it ends. This is the section most people come to body language videos for, and it is also the section where most body language advice gets completely misunderstood. The popular belief is simple. Liars avoid eye contact. They touch their nose. They cross their arms. But the reality is far more complicated. Even trained professionals can struggle to identify deception accurately, because they often search for one obvious signal. But the human body does not produce one universal gesture that means someone is lying. What the body often produces instead is stress. For many people, lying, hiding information, or discussing something uncomfortable creates psychological pressure. And stress can produce a recognizable group of physical reactions. The first is pacifying behavior. When the brain experiences stress, the body instinctively tries to calm itself. And one of the most common ways it does this is through touch. People touch the neck, the throat, or the small hollow at the base of the throat. They rub the forehead, stroke the hair, or repeatedly touch the face. These movements can help the nervous system regulate discomfort, but remember, the gesture alone is not enough. The most important thing is timing. Imagine asking someone a completely normal question. Nothing changes. Then, you ask one very specific question, and immediately their hand moves toward the neck. Their face may remain calm. Their voice may remain steady. Their answer may sound perfectly controlled, but the body has revealed something important. That question created stress. It does not automatically prove deception, but it tells you exactly where to pay closer attention. The second signal is ventilation. When stress rises, body temperature can increase, and people may instinctively try to release heat. They pull at the collar, adjust a tie, move clothing away from the neck, or lift hair away from the back of the neck. Again, watch the timing. When does the behavior appear? What happened immediately before it? What question was asked? What subject was mentioned? Context gives the gesture meaning. The third signal is the freeze response. Most people imagine that a deceptive person becomes more restless, more nervous, more active. But sometimes, the opposite happens. The body suddenly becomes still. Movement decreases. Blinking slows. The person appears almost too controlled, too careful, too motionless. This can be the nervous system's ancient freeze response. The same survival system that once helped living creatures avoid detection can appear during modern psychological stress. And then, there is the most subtle signal of all. The micro-expression. For a fraction of a second, a genuine emotion can appear on the face before the conscious mind replaces it. Fear, contempt, disgust, anger, surprise, sadness, joy. The real reaction may appear only briefly. Then, the social expression arrives. The smile, the calm face, the controlled performance. Training yourself to notice these moments takes practice. But the starting point is simple. Watch for the moment when someone's expression does not match their words. Someone says they are fine, but before the smile appears, you see fear, or anger, or sadness, only for a fraction of a second. Do not immediately accuse. Do not assume. Observe, compare, look for clusters. And always remember, the body may reveal stress. But stress is not the same thing as guilt. That distinction is what separates careful observation from careless judgment. Attraction is one of the areas where body language can become especially revealing, and also one of the areas where people make the most mistakes. Because no single gesture proves attraction. But when several involuntary signals appear together, the pattern can become difficult to ignore. The first signal is mirroring. When two people feel genuinely connected, their bodies often begin to synchronize. They adopt similar postures, use similar gestures, lean in the same direction, and sometimes even begin to match each other's rhythm. This usually happens without conscious effort. One person changes position. A few moments later, the other does something similar. One leans forward. The other follows naturally. One becomes more relaxed. The other begins to soften as well. This unconscious synchronization is sometimes described as limbic resonance. It reflects a growing sense of familiarity, safety, connection, and this is also why subtle mirroring can help build rapport. Not obvious imitation. Not copying every movement. That feels unnatural. Instead, match the overall energy, the pace, the posture, the rhythm of the conversation. When someone leans forward, allow a natural pause before moving slightly closer yourself. When they slow down, stop rushing. When their posture relaxes, let your own body become less rigid. The goal is not to manipulate. It is to reduce unnecessary friction between two nervous systems. But there is another side to this signal. When one person repeatedly moves towards synchronization and the other consistently remains distant, the connection may not be mutual. The second signal is preening. When someone becomes especially aware of another person's presence, they may instinctively improve their appearance. Hair is adjusted. Clothing is straightened. Posture changes. The body becomes more open. A person may suddenly stand taller, smooth a jacket, adjust a collar, or become more conscious of how they look. The most revealing part is not the behavior itself. It is when the behavior begins. Watch what changes when one specific person enters the room. The third signal is foot direction. The upper body is easy to control. The feet are often less carefully managed. In a group conversation, a person may politely face whoever is speaking, but their feet may continue pointing toward someone else. Again and again, the face may show social attention. The feet can reveal deeper orientation. They often point toward where the person genuinely wants to go, or toward the person holding their real attention. The fourth signal is proximity. People naturally reduce distance with those they feel comfortable around. They find reasons to remain nearby. They lean in during conversation. They allow physical distance to become slightly smaller. But the most important signal is the body's response. When distance decreases, does the person remain relaxed? Do the shoulders stay soft? Does the body remain open? Or does something change? A step backward, a sudden stiffness, the torso turning away, the body creating space again. These reactions matter. Because genuine connection is not measured by how close you can get to someone. It is measured by whether both people feel comfortable there. So remember, never use body language as permission. Never treat one signal as proof. Look for patterns. Look for reciprocity, and respect distance immediately when the other person's body asks for it. Because attraction cannot be understood from one movement. But comfort, connection, and mutual interest often leave a pattern. And the body usually begins forming that pattern before either person says it aloud.